I don't know why that moment still sits in the back of my mind. The weight of her sister's forehead against mine, the whisper I wasn't prepared to hear. Maybe because it didn't feel like the kind of moment that belonged to me. It felt borrowed, like I had stepped into someone else's story and forgotten how to step back out. But that comes later. Back then, on that first ordinary afternoon, all I knew was the smell of engine oil and dust settling on my sleeves. The repair shop was too bright, too loud, too everything. I'd been there since morning, and the radios from the other bays were all fighting each other like tired birds in a cage. She walked in just after noon, Elena, though I didn't know her name until much later. I only noticed the sound first, the click of heels hesitating on the threshold, like she wasn't sure she'd come to the right place. When I looked up, she was standing by the door with sunglasses in her hand, her expression somewhere between impatient and amused. Her confidence wasn't the loud kind. It was quieter, the sort woven into posture, shoulders relaxed but not careless, chin slightly lifted, eyes scanning the room like she'd learned long ago not to depend on anyone's help. Her car trouble was simple. The way she explained it wasn't. "It's making a noise," she said, waving a hand in a vague circle. "A kind of flutter? Or clicking? Maybe both." Then she paused, like she realized how unhelpful that sounded. "Sorry, I'm usually better at this." She wasn't flustered, just aware of me in a way most people weren't. I wiped my hands on my shirt before I even remembered I had a rag nearby. "Show me," I said. She followed me outside, standing a little too close, and then stepping back like she'd caught herself doing it. Her perfume didn't match the environment. Clean, soft, nothing oily or metallic about it. When I leaned over her open hood, she waited beside me instead of retreating to her phone. Most people didn't do that. "Do you get this a lot?" she asked. "People explaining car noises like they're describing ghosts." "Every day." I tried not to sound nervous. "At least you didn't say it was kind of growling but also chirping." She laughed, quiet but real. The kind of laugh that reached her eyes only halfway, like she was careful about what she gave. I checked the belts, then the filter. Simple fix. Nothing dramatic. Still, when I turned to tell her, she was watching me with this smallest crease between her brows, as if deciding whether to ask something she wasn't supposed to. "You're young," she said. Not judgment, not surprise, just observation. "So are you," I replied before my brain stopped me. She blinked, a beat too long, then gave a soft, amused exhale. "I'm really not." The moment stretched, comfortable for a second, uncomfortable the next. I felt it between us, like a current I pretended not to notice. I told her what was wrong with the car. She nodded, listening with an attentiveness most customers didn't have. She asked questions, good ones, specific ones, and kept brushing her thumb against the strap of her bag in a slow, thoughtful rhythm. Before she left, she reached out without thinking and brushed a fleck of dust off my sleeve. A small gesture, too small to matter, too strange to ignore. "Thank you," she said, "for explaining everything. Not everyone does." I told her it was nothing. But when she walked away, I realized I was still standing in the same spot, staring at the space she'd just left. And that small, accidental touch on my sleeve. I don't know why, but I haven't been able to forget it. She came back 3 days later. Not for the car. That part was fine. I knew at the moment she walked in because she didn't have her keys in hand. Just a folder tucked under her arm and a look that didn't match the confident posture I remembered. "I hope this isn't a bad time," she said, stopping near my workbench like she was afraid to cross some invisible line. "It's fine," I said. "What's up?" She hesitated, really hesitated this time. Her fingers tightened on the edge of the folder until the paper inside bowed. She looked around at the noise, the clutter, the men arguing over a socket wrench, and I could see it. The faint exhaustion she tried to hide beneath her steady voice. Her eyes had that tired shine people get when they've been carrying something for too long. "I needed help printing something," she said finally. "My home printer's dead, the office is complicated, and you're the only person I know nearby who won't turn it into a whole conversation." She said it lightly, like it wasn't personal, but her shoulders told another story. "Sure," I said. "We've got an ancient printer in the back. If it cooperates, We can give it a shot. She exhaled a small, grateful breath and followed me. She didn't walk with the same sharp confidence as last time. Her steps were careful, almost quiet, like she didn't want to take up too much space. In the tiny back office, the fluorescent light flickered overhead. She wrinkled her nose at it. "Wow," she murmured. "This room feels like it still writes emails and dial-up." I smiled. She didn't. Not because the joke wasn't funny, because she was somewhere else in her head. When I reached for the folder, her hand brushed mine, cold fingertips, a slight tremor she tried to hide by pulling back too fast. "Sorry," she said. Too quickly, too sharply. "It's okay." But she still kept her hands to herself after that, gripping them together in front of her like she needed to anchor something inside. The printer, of course, jammed on the first try. She let out a soft, humorless laugh and pressed a hand to her temple. "You ever have a week where everything works except you?" I should have said something clever. Instead, I just watched the way her shoulders drew in, the way her eyes softened at the edges when she finally let a bit of truth slip out. "You look tired," I said quietly. I didn't plan to. It just came out. She went still. Not offended. Not embarrassed. Just unguarded in a way I hadn't seen before. "Yeah," she whispered. "I am." She didn't explain, and I didn't ask. We stood there in the humming, flickering light, me fighting with the printer, her leaning back against the desk, arms folded, gaze lowered like she didn't want to be seen, yet somehow didn't want to disappear either. When the papers finally printed, she took them with careful hands, smoothing the corners as if that tiny act could fix everything else in her life. "Thank you," she said again. Softer this time. Warmer. "You're easy to be around." I didn't know what to say. She looked up, and for a breath-long moment, neither of us moved. Then she stepped back, lips parting like she almost said something else. "Almost. You saved me today," she murmured instead. "More than you know." And even after she left, the office still felt like she was standing there, like her silence hadn't really gone anywhere at all. The third time wasn't planned. A storm had blown in fast, wind slapping against the shop's metal siding, rain coming down in sheets thick enough to blur the whole parking lot. We were already closing early. The power flickered twice, and the radios in the bays kept cutting out like they were tired of holding on. I was locking up when I saw her car pull in, wipers struggling, headlights diffused into a hazy white smear. She parked crookedly, like she hadn't meant to stop here at all, but couldn't keep driving. She stepped out with her coat pulled tight around her, hair damp at the ends, eyes scanning the dark like she was bracing for bad news. "Are you okay?" I called out. She hesitated before answering, the rain running down her face like she wasn't sure which parts of it were water and which were worry. "My sister's place lost power," she said. "She's stuck at work, and I didn't want to go home alone yet. I was driving around like an idiot and ended up here." She let out a thin breath, almost a laugh. "I didn't mean to bother you." "You're not bothering me," I said. Too fast, too honest. The storm cracked overhead, and she startled. Just a small jump, barely noticeable, but I saw it. She followed me inside, grateful for the shelter, brushing wet hair away from her face. Drops clung to her eyelashes. The shop was dim, running on backup lights. It made everything feel smaller, closer. She stood near my workbench, arms wrapped around herself. Not defensive, just cold, or maybe unsettled in a way she was trying to keep quiet. "I shouldn't be here," she murmured, almost to herself. But she didn't leave. I grabbed a towel from the supply closet and held it out to her. She didn't take it right away. Her eyes flicked to mine like she was testing the distance between us, not the physical one, the other one, the one that kept shifting every time we spoke. When she finally did take the towel, her fingers grazed mine. A brief touch, barely anything, but her breath caught. Just a small, sharp inhale she pretended wasn't there. "How's your week been?" I asked, trying to cut the tension into something manageable. She laughed softly. "Why do you always ask me that at the worst possible times?" I think it's the only time I see the real answer. She froze. Her eyes softened. Her shoulders dropped. She looked down, twisting the edge of the towel between her hands. She swallowed. "There's something I should probably tell you. Something I've been avoiding." My heartbeat jumped. reckless and stupid. Then her phone rang. A name flashed on the screen. I didn't know him, but I knew enough from her expression, a quiet flinch, a tired familiarity, that whoever it was had weighed in her life. She silenced the call without answering. The storm roared outside. She looked at me again. Something unspoken lodged between us like a breath we hadn't decided to release. I can't, she started, voice trembling at the edges. But then she stopped herself, pushing the words back down like she was scared of what would happen if they slipped out. I stepped toward her, a single step, nothing more. She didn't step back. Her hand tightened around the towel. My hand hovered, unsure, somewhere between offering comfort and crossing a line. And in that too quiet moment, with thunder shaking the walls, she whispered, barely audible, "Don't." But she didn't move away, and neither did I. The storm eased, but inside the shop the air felt heavier, like the weather had crawled in with us and refused to leave. She stood a few feet away, towel clenched in her hands, breath uneven in the dim light. Her "don't" still hung in the room. It hadn't pushed me away. It hadn't brought me closer. It just froze everything between us. I waited for her to say more. She didn't. So I stepped back first. Not far, just enough to breathe again. Her eyes followed the movement like it was a loss. "Elena," I said quietly, "what's happening right now?" She let out a shaky breath, the kind people release when they're out of ways to pretend. I don't know. But she did. I could see it in the way she kept looking at me, then at the floor, then back at me, as if each glance hurt for a different reason. "You were about to tell me something earlier," I said, before the phone rang. She laughed once, a brittle sound. "Yeah, and maybe it's good it rang." The lights flickered again, and she closed her eyes like she needed a second to gather herself. "This isn't normal," she whispered. "You know that, right?" Her voice wasn't scolding. It wasn't warning. It was scared. Not of me, of herself. "I didn't say it was normal," I replied. "But it's happening." She opened her eyes, and the honesty in them hit me harder than anything she'd said so far. "I keep coming here," she murmured. "I keep finding reasons to talk to you. I tell myself they're practical, simple, harmless." A pause. But nothing about this feels harmless anymore. I didn't move, didn't interrupt. I just listened. She ran her thumb along the damp edge of the towel, slow and deliberate. "You're 20-something. You have a whole life ahead of you." Her voice tightened. "And I keep dragging pieces of my life into yours like it won't cost either of us anything." "It's not just you," I said. "I'm here too. I keep stepping toward you." Her jaw tensed. "Why?" The question wasn't curious. It was afraid of the answer. I tried to explain, but the words kept slipping into silence. Because you don't pretend with me. Because when you look at me, it's like," I stopped. She waited. "It's like you see something I didn't know anyone could see." Her fingers loosened around the towel. She didn't blink. For a long stretch of seconds, we just stood there, two people caught in a space neither of us meant to fall into, both of us waiting for the other to find the exit. "Say something," I murmured. She did. Barely. "This can't keep happening." The quiet that followed was sharper than any argument. A kind of silence that rearranged the distance between us, piece by piece. When she finally stepped closer, not touching, just close enough that her voice didn't have to rise, her expression softened into something raw, unpolished, unbearably human. "I don't know what you want from me," she whispered. "I don't even know what I want from you." Her breath trembled. Her eyes held mine, and the distance between us vanished in everything but touch. Then she said the line that knocked the air out of me. Not dramatic, not romantic, just painfully, devastatingly true. "I stopped feeling like myself the day I met you, and I don't know if that scares me or saves me." I thought the moment she said those words, "I stopped feeling like myself the day I met you," was the shift, the fault line, the thing everything else would break from. But I was wrong. The real shift came quietly, a few days later, in a way I never could have prepared for. She came by the shop again, but this time she didn't step inside. She stayed by her car, leaning against the door, eyes distant in a way that made my stomach drop before I even reached her. "Elena?" I asked. She startled a bit, as if she hadn't expected me to come out so fast. Her arms were crossed, but not in that guarded, protective way. More like she didn't know what to do with them, where to put all the things she wasn't saying. "I'm not staying long," she said before I could ask anything. I needed to drop something off." She handed me her phone. Not like she was giving it up. Like she needed me to see something. On the screen was a voicemail. The preview text was just a name, Lena's husband, and a timestamp from that morning. "She didn't mean for me to hear it," Elena said quietly. "She forwarded it by accident." I hesitated. "Do you want me to listen?" "No," she said. "Just read the transcript." So I did. It was short, stiff. The kind of message a man leaves when he's trying to sound patient, but is really holding something broken in both hands. "Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I should have said it sooner. And tell her I missed the version of her who didn't look so tired all the time." I stared at the screen, not sure what part hurt me on her behalf. Maybe all of it. When I looked back up, Elena was watching me with a small, brittle half-smile. "He thinks I'm tired because of him," she murmured. "But I've been tired for years. Long before you. Long before everything." She took her phone back, her fingers brushing mine. Her touch was warmer than last time, but her eyes weren't. "You remind me of someone," she said. "Not dramatic. Not trembling. Just honest. Someone from a long time ago." I waited. "He wasn't mine," she said, searching for the right words. "Not in any official sense. But he understood me in ways I didn't realize I needed." She looked away. "I lost him. Not to death, just life. The slow kind of losing." She exhaled, and it wasn't shaky. It was something worse, steady, as if she'd practiced letting go so many times it had become muscle memory. "I think that's why I keep coming back here," she said. "You don't look like him. You don't talk like him. But when you listen, when you stand close, just close enough, I feel that old version of myself again. The one I thought disappeared." Wind brushed through the lot. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, then laughed quietly at herself. "I'm not supposed to tell you that," she whispered. "It isn't fair." I took a slow breath. "Maybe it's fairer than you think." She didn't answer. She just stepped closer, not touching, never touching, and stood in front of me like she was testing the air between us. Then she said something so soft I almost missed it, but it hit harder than anything so far. "Promise me you won't become another person I lose slowly." The day after she asked me not to become another slow loss, she didn't come by. Or the day after that. Or the third day. I told myself she just needed space. I told myself not to check her social media, not to hover near the front of the shop every time a car pulled in. But I still did both, and the quiet between us stretched long enough to make me wonder if I'd imagined everything. The storm, the confession, the way her breath had caught when she stood too close. Then, late on the fourth evening, when the shop was half dark and the tools were already hanging on their hooks, she walked in. No pretense. No folder. No car trouble. Just Elena. She looked softer somehow. Not calmer. Not happier. Just less armored. Her hair was pulled back messily, like she didn't bother fixing it before coming. Her eyes found mine almost immediately, and something in me settled, like I'd been holding my breath for too long. "Hi," she said. I matched her tone. "Hi." She stepped closer, but not fully into my space, as if she wasn't sure where she was allowed to stand anymore. Her hands were empty. No towel, no papers. Just her. "I thought about what I said," she murmured. "About losing people slowly." And I asked, and I realized something. She looked down at her hands, turning one palm up like she was trying to read her own truth from it. "Sometimes you don't lose people slowly. Sometimes you lose them all at once. Because you never gave the connection a real place to exist." She lifted her gaze. Those words weren't subtle, but they weren't a confession either. I stepped closer, carefully, waiting for any sign of discomfort. She didn't move away. She didn't tense. Just watched me with a tired, unguarded patience. "Elena," I said softly, "this doesn't have to be anything we're not ready for." She let out a breath. Not relief, not frustration, just honesty. "I know, but it also can't be nothing." We stood there, inches apart, saying nothing more. The shop was quiet, only the hum of the fridge in the back cutting through the silence. The kind of silence where every breath counts. She took one more small step forward, so small I might have imagined it, and her fingers hovered near mine. Not touching, just close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off her skin. "Can we just stop pretending there's nothing here?" she whispered. I nodded, a slow, steady motion. No rush, no declarations, just acknowledgement. When our hands finally touched, barely, lightly, it wasn't a dramatic moment. It didn't feel like a movie. It felt careful, earned, human. Her thumb brushed the side of my finger in a small, hesitant arc, and she breathed in like the contact startled her. We didn't move closer. We didn't pull apart. We just stood there with our hands barely linked, like two people who had finally stopped running from whatever had been building in the quiet spaces between conversations, glances, and storms. She leaned, not her whole body, just her head, just enough that her forehead nearly grazed my temple. Not touching, almost. Her voice was barely audible. "Stay with me, in whatever this is." Not a promise, not a question, just the truth neither of us could outrun anymore. And for the first time, the silence between us felt like an answer. There's a strange comfort in looking back from the quiet of the present. Time has a way of softening the sharp edges, making everything clearer, warmer, almost gentler than it felt in the moment. And when I think about us now, about him, about her, about everything we didn't know we were learning, I realized the story wasn't really about the big moments at all. It was about the shifts, the small ones, the ones that changed us without asking for permission. For him, she was the first person who made him slow down. Really slow down. Not because she asked him to, but because being near her made rushing feel wrong. She taught him to listen beyond words, to notice the quiet tremble in someone's voice when they're trying to be brave, the way a person's eyes soften when they're letting you in. Around her, he learned that love doesn't require perfection, just presence, that he didn't need to be the strongest, or the funniest, or the most impressive version of himself. He just had to be honest. And that was enough. For her, he became a reminder that not all good things disappear. She had spent so long preparing for loss that she forgot what it felt like to trust something that stayed. His steadiness wasn't loud, but it was real. It didn't demand anything from her. It didn't rush her healing or try to rewrite her past. It simply gave her room to breathe, to open, to hope. And somewhere along the way, she stopped waiting for the moment he'd walk away. Instead, she started imagining what it might feel like if he didn't. And the nature of love, that changed for both of them. Love stopped being something dramatic and overwhelming. It stopped being a story of all or nothing, of grand gestures and impossible promises. It became something quieter, but deeper, something that lived in shared glances, in soft laughter, in the way two people can sit in silence and still feel understood. They learned that love doesn't always heal you instantly. Sometimes it simply gives you a safe place to heal yourself. Maybe that's why this story still lingers. Not because it was perfect, or easy, or even certain, but because it mattered. Because it showed them they were capable of changing, and of being changed, in ways they never expected. It taught them that the right person doesn't complete you. They walk with you while you learn to become complete on your own. So when I look back now, it isn't with regret. It's with gratitude. For the moments that shaped them. For the lessons they didn't know they needed. For the quiet, steady afterglow that still warms them long after the final chapter closed. Sparkles, if this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?